Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to the Sweetwater Minute. It is Friday, day one of GearFest 2015, and our special guest, Terri Winston, Executive Director, correct?
Yes.
Of Women's Audio Mission.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in. Appreciate you being here, taking time out. You're doing a panel discussion, correct?
I am doing a panel discussion tomorrow.
Right. What will you be discussing?
Women in audio, but mostly what Women's Audio Mission does and our new studio, and then Sylvia Massey's going to visit.
Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
So that's
going to
be
great.
Yeah, action-packed. We're going to cram it all in there.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you are songwriter, composer, multi-instrumentalist, producer, engineer. You've won all kinds of awards for your songwriting and all those kind of things, and doing video stuff, film things, and lots of things going on, right?
Yeah, I dabble. No, I don't dabble.
You do a lot of things, yeah. Besides, of course, all the work you're doing with the Women's Audio Mission.
That's mostly what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you came into this by way of being an electrical engineer?
Yeah, I had a strange route into, I started out, I was in school, in college here in Indiana, at Purdue actually, right? Yeah, for electrical engineering, and then I was in a band. We got signed, so that I kind of have a backdoor route into engineering because I was a musician, then I was in recording studios, and it was just a natural. I worked with a producer who was like, come on, you're an electrical engineer, you should be in a studio, not playing guitar, but right. No, I did both, so it was fun.
But you have a bunch of great credits as an engineer-producer. Kronos Quartet?
Kronos Quartet's a big client.
Right.
Sure,
right.
We
and
did.
A lot of world music kind of things, too. Right?
We're doing a lot of world music. Angelique Kidjo won a Grammy on one of the records we did last year, which was fun. And so our studio, we're training women, and one of the most difficult things to record is acoustic music, so world music is a natural fit for us because they get to work on things that are really interesting and get good credits, also help musicians that don't get necessarily a lot of exposure. And it's also really difficult because it's acoustic music with instruments they may not be familiar with.
So as a seasoned musician yourself, you toured with PJ Harvey, lots of different artists that you were sharing the stage with. Did that change your approach to when you then sat into the engineer-producer seat?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, how so?
I always side with the artist.
Yeah.
Because I feel their pain, especially if you're training people to be engineers, teaching them to be efficient and fast, because I'm sure you know this too, being a musician yourself, being on the other side of the glass, and how kind of vulnerable and scary it is, and then have to wait.
Right.
It's just excruciating. So definitely, just kind of your demeanor around them and the care that you take with them and the time that you take with them is an important.
Right, the psychology of doing it is almost as important as anything.
Come on, you can't say that around them. They're vulnerable right now.
Right. Right. So how did you learn the actual craft of electrical engineering is going to give you the background, you're going to understand the components and the signal flow and those type of things, but there's still a craft to recording, microphone placement and all of those kinds of things. How did you learn that aspect of it?
That was, I'm old, so that we didn't have these recording schools back in the day. So,
back in the day, right?
Yeah, I definitely had the technical side. I was working with a producer, Lenny Kay, Patti Smith Group, and so I was really lucky to have him. So he kind of threw me into the fire really early. So I learned a lot from working with him. So the technical side was pretty easy for me, but yeah, it definitely. Learning microphones and how they sound and how, wow, I move it an inch and it sounds completely different. But I kind of had a mentor. So that's kind of what Women's Audio Mission is trying to replicate is I had really great mentors. Right.
So what was the genesis of Women's Audio Mission? How did you found that? How did you get that started?
I was a professor at City College of San Francisco, and that's such a great school. They really focus on diversity, and there was no women in the program, and so I had just created a 2-year degree program there, and so they were like, what could we do? And I'm like, I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it, actually. To be honest, up until that point, I had just great luck in my career. I just had great mentors and didn't really worry about it, and then I got in the classroom, I was like, okay, there are no women in this classroom.
Right.
So we started with a group of students there, and we went to our first Audio Engineering Society convention as Women's Audio Mission, and the industry just kind of really got it right away. So it's kind of been, for the last 12 years, just kind of riding the tiger of all that support just, I think, brought a lot of attention to the organization and created a studio. It's the only studio in the world run by women, and all that gear was donated by manufacturers. So that support was just, it kind of blew our mind. So I thought, well, this is great. We have all this support. These women need to see, like, you're supported. Like, they're going to support you. So you need to come and be a part of this. So it took off around the college program and then that first AES, I think, and AES has been really supportive. So those two things together really were the genesis of Women's Audio Mission.
Right. So tell us how it works. A woman wants to get into recording, and they approach you, or you find them through different ways, or how does it
they find
work?
us.
They find
we
you?
train, now we're up to about 1,200 women and girls every year. About 700 of them are middle school girls from San Francisco Bay Area. We specifically focus on underserved schools, and so we've just been able to meet that demand. So we work with different schools, and we're really just exposing them to all the different types of creative technology. So whether it's music technology or using code to create sounds or anything, building a speaker, they learn electronics.
Right.
Just trying to give them exposure so they have that choice. So they know they have all these options. And then adults, we have adult classes. We train about 450 women through that program. And they usually find us. I mean, really, honestly, it's been for us trying to meet the demand. So we've been expanding because we haven't been able to meet our demand. So we're really lucky to have that.
Right. Yeah, I think I just saw a press release or an announcement that you have a new studio that you're working on.
We just moved into it. So we tripled our space, which was great. But we, of course, are in San Francisco, which is the worst real estate market on the planet. And last July, we were going to be homeless, basically. And then a studio that was relatively well-known came on the market, SF Soundworks, where it was Alanis Morissette and REM and Radiohead and Timbaland recorded there. And they were going to basically turn it into offices. And there were some city agencies that intervened and said, well, okay, wait a minute. We have a nonprofit that's going to be displaced that trains all these women and girls, and they need a studio, and you're going to tear this down. So they slowed the seller down so that we could kind of work something out, because it's really hard for a nonprofit to get a loan. You can't get one, so there's all these like kind of red tape problems that we had to address. And come September, we bought it, so we were stable, which was like major, giant, huge miracle of epic proportions that we're still kind of reeling from. But we still have the work of paying it off, but at least we're kind of secure, and it's so that's just been a huge transformation to have. We have great gear. We have all this gear that's been donated, and then we finally have a space that's worthy of the gear. Because the other way around, it was like our space was horrible, but we had this amazing gear that was donated and was fantastic. So finally, it's all caught up. Right.
So do artists then purchase studio time the way you would with a commercial studio to come in and work there, or how does the studio function?
They do. It's really subsidized, so we have incredibly low rates because the caveat is they have to use our engineers and producers, so it's a way for the women that come through our training programs to get paid work, and for them also to get these credits, so to work on Kronos Quartet or Angelique Kidjo or Salman Rushdie we did an interview with. So to get their name on that is, for them the most important thing, but also just to get them started, get their career kind of jump-started, get them some paid work. So it is, it's run as a studio. It's just very low cost. So a lot of independent artists, and like I said, world music artists that, we had a throat singer from, I think we talked about this, from Mongolia, who was the last guy that did this in his lineage, and nobody knows about him. So it's stuff like that we get really excited about. Okay, wow, we get to document this cool thing that nobody has heard before, and he's like a genius.
How great is that?
It's the best. Yeah.
Really nice. So you have the studio set up to where artists can come in, and how does an artist like Kronos find you? And how do you make that connection, and what are the projects like when you're working with someone who's so revered in the classical world like they are?
That's a great question. So I was working on a project with a Vietnamese composer, Van Ang Vo. So she's very well known in Vietnam. And so she was working in our studio, and David Harrington from Kronos Quartet came to the studio because he was interested in meeting her. And he just kind of fell in love with the studio. And this was our old kind of crummy studio. And he's just a real kind of musician, so it's like a vibe thing for him. If he likes, and he really liked how her session was sounding, so he said, well, can we come in here? And I said, well, absolutely. So I don't know, 2 weeks later, they were in there. So
Wow.
I get a call, can they come in this week? I said, sure. Well, no one's going to say no to that.
Right, right.
And I think we're on like our 12th project. We do
Wow.
kind of everything that every different kind of thing that they want to work on. So if it's pre-show music, we just did pre-show music. They're doing a big Terri Riley festival. So we just finished that right before I left. And then sometimes we do the backing tracks anytime they're having kind of found sound or anything that they're weaving into their performance. And then to, things on their albums we'll record. So we did a piece on the last, they had a like 40-year compilation. We had a couple of tracks on that we did with them. So they're amazing.
Yeah.
I think what people maybe don't understand is when you get musicians that are that amazing, it actually makes your job easier in one way, but it makes your job harder in another way because you really have to they're really fast. And you have to really be on top of your game. And you have to be able to read an orchestral score while it's recording.
Right, right. You don't want to hold them up. You don't want to.
You can't, no, there's not the option of holding them up. I mean, they're like so incredible that you have to have eye contact with them the whole time they're recording, and you have to be watching the score because they will want to know at bar 40 something happened at bar 40, and so I have to know what I'm watching you, but I have to look where's bar 40.
Right.
So most of the time I'm like just trying to keep up with them. And it's great training for women to see that the importance of being able to read music. Just like, okay, not anyone could sit down, and I'm lucky that I have a couple of engineers that work with us that are really classically trained, because you have to be able to have that language with that scale of musician. You can't get away with it.
It's an important skill for really any engineer or producer to have,
I
to
think
be
so.
able to at least follow a chart a little bit.
Yeah, I used to be more lenient and think, well, they could probably do it, and now I'm kind of backing off into, I think they're going to have to learn how to read music.
Makes it easier, if nothing else.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't communicate if you're
No.
working with a musician, outside of a genre where you don't have written music.
It's really
any genre
true.
outside it, you really. And even I've done a lot of sessions where even just being able to follow a chord chart, if you can't do that, and I've worked with engineers who can't even follow a chord chart, and that's problematic in a lot of cases.
It is, and they kind of don't trust you either. Well, would you, you're a musician, would you?
It slows things down, if nothing else.
Yeah, you'd be like, wait, you don't know what a bar is? It's just downbeat, basic terms.
Right.
At least that would have to be there, for sure. I mean, you might be able to fake it, but But they're a joy. They're starting a huge series for Carnegie Hall, and so that's like 5 years of work. So David came in and said, are you ready for 5 years of work? I said, are you kidding? Yeah, where do we sign?
Yeah.
No, they're super supportive, and they're great. They're just great to work with. We love it.
Yeah, what a tremendous asset for the studio and for the Women's Audio Mission.
It's incredible, yeah.
Great. So I saw, and I'm probably outdated here, but I saw a statistic that said that something like in the music industry, only about 5% of the people working in the industry are women. And something like the number of women working in technology in general has dropped like 20% since the 80s or something like that.
More than that.
More than that now?
It's 70% since 2000.
And why is that? What is happening?
I don't have I wish I had the answer to that. Here's what my opinion is I studied engineering in the 80s, and I felt like I had a lot of support. And I don't know what happened in between. I don't know. I felt like that came through my school system, and so I don't know if like the education system has changed in such a way, but I felt like there was a little more support. Not, I was still maybe one of, maybe there was like 12% in my class, but we were really well supported. I didn't feel like, I didn't feel marginalized. So something's changed. I don't exactly know why, but I think the way that girls are socialized around technology is part of it, just from a very young age. So we're trying to kind of, I was raised around an engineer, so I think I had kind of an odd situation. So I'm always trying to recreate, well, why am I comfortable around technology? I want to recreate that for somebody. Right. So they feel comfortable around that. So I think it's that socialization. You don't see girls like gravitating towards gadgets for gadget's sake. It's kind of like they want to have a purpose. Like, okay, I'll use the gadget if it, help somebody or create something. Right. So there has to be like a little bit of a social component, I think, to make it
So that they're application oriented rather
Yeah,
than just
I
focused
think-
on the actual toy.
That's
if
what
you
we
will.
think's happening.
Right.
We just kind of go by, okay, that's working. More girls are doing this, so that's successful. I don't really know. I don't do research. We get so many emails every week about research, and I'm like, no, we're just really, we have our hands in it, so we don't have time to actually do this research. I'd love if somebody came and did that, and you know, watch us do this. But we basically do really hands-on things that are positive, and we know they work.
Do you have a feel for, we have the Music Academy here at Sweetwater, and we have several hundred kids and adults who are taking music
Which is
classes,
great.
you know, guitar, piano, and all the different instruments and things. And I just watch the people arriving, and it seems like there's a good mix of girls, boys, men, women taking it. Do you have a feel for just music in general? Are women represented?
I think in music you'll see, yes, I think you'll see more women in music, but you don't see, the 5% is the production side.
Right.
So behind the glass. And that was, when that was presented to me, I thought about that as, okay, that's less than 5% women working on anything we listen to in our lives. And if you think about how influential sound is, and to not have, you know, the perspectives, the input, the, you know, opinions of women and girls on any of that media is a little scary to me. I was like, well, that's crazy, less than 5%. And you know how many decisions get made in the production process, and women aren't involved in that. So I wanted them to have that choice of being involved and being a part of that process, because I think that changes things. I know it's different when I'm in the room than when I'm not in the room. So I think and I think it's true of anybody, not just women.
Right, in any field, basically. I mean, it's the same way.
It's a good thing.
So I'll ask the obvious question, and it'll be super easy for you to answer. How do we fix that?
I think the way to fix it is to give more options, to make everybody, to give access to everybody to have those options. So access to the gear, access to the technology, access to the training on the technology, and then showing them why it's important. I think education is huge. So all of that wrapped into an education environment is what I think that will drastically change it.
Right. I hope so.
Me too.
And so this is the topic you'll be discussing in your panel here at GearFest.
Yes.
Basically, that'll be the kind of things you'll be talking about.
Yeah, and then I don't know where Sylvia's going to take it. That can always be a little bit of a wild ride, but that in a good way.
Well, obviously, she's a great example of a success story.
Yeah, no, she's awesome,
who's
and
done
she's kind of
tremendously well.
genius. So I have to keep up with her. So it'll be fun. I'll be like, what?
We're
Where are we
really
going?
we're really looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
It'll be fun.
It'll be great. So, thanks so much for taking time out and sitting down and having a little chat with it. I think you're doing such important work, and congratulations on the new studio and the success of Women's Audio Mission. And, you know, hopefully the future will just continue to grow, and your reach will grow, and we'll see the situation change.
Well, great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Come visit.
I'd love to.
Come on out.
I'd love to.
That'd be awesome.
Great to see you.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks for joining me for the Sweetwater Minute. I'm Mitch Gallagher.